How to Cultivate Your Mental Garden, written by Ernest Holmes, read by Jim Wentland. Friends, last week we talked about how to plant your mental garden, and as you know, after we've planted a garden, we must cultivate it. We must keep it free from weeds. In the garden of the mind, this means that having planted the right thoughts, we must carefully nurture them and see that they do not become uprooted by doubt and fear. And this is what we are going to discuss today: how to cultivate your mental garden so it will produce health, happiness, and success. Last week, we talked about planting seeds of hope in the fertile soil of your faith in this thing called life. At first thought, there seems to be a difference between mental gardening and earthly gardening, but we discovered that the law of planting is the same in both instances, for the soil of the mind must be prepared even as we prepare the earth to receive the seeds we wish to plant. It seems wonderful to me to think of the garden of the mind just as we do of another kind of a garden, and to realize that a power greater than we are actually producing the harvest. It is life that gives us this garden. It is the law of God that causes it to grow. But as the Old Testament tells us in the story of the Garden of Eden, man was given the garden to tend and water, and this garden means our plot in the creative mind of the universe. We planted some seeds in this garden last week. Now, we wish to be certain we are cultivating them rightly, so they may receive the warmth of God's sunshine and the refreshing rains of the outpouring of His love. Our garden is a garden of thoughts and ideas, of hope and of faith, from which we will grow, if we carefully tend it, the fruit of our heart's desire. Don't you think it is very interesting to realize that the simplest child who pokes a tiny seed into the ground with his little finger will receive a harvest equal to that of a Luther Burbank, who spent his whole life in horticulture? Perhaps this is why Jesus said, "I thank thee that thou hast hid these things from the wise and the prudent, and hast revealed them unto babes." And yet, Luther Burbank produced plants new to nature because he was in partnership with this thing called life. I never had the privilege of meeting this remarkable man, but his wife told me that he actually talked to his plants and told them what he wanted them to do. Life has given us all the power to do something new, and if you cultivate your garden carefully, you too may find, when the harvest comes, that something new and wonderful has been created for you. You see, your mind is really the place where you use the mind of this thing called life. The fruits which appear in your garden and the plants you are to harvest are the gift of a power greater than you are. Let's call this the gift or life to you and to me. We plant the seeds. God gives us the harvest. We have planted seeds of hope. Let's be certain that we cultivate them with loving attention and with that enthusiastic expectancy that every gardener has. And let's remember that we are dealing with the miracle of life and see if we can keep that childlike wonder which is so necessary to our everyday happiness. You always feel enthusiastic when you meet people who have enthusiasm. And when you talk with those who have faith, your own faith is increased. The very contact of a lovable personality warms the heart and cheers the mind and restores confidence in life. Yes, you certainly must keep the wonder of life alive in your imagination, and keep your mind warm with the feeling of growing things, new things that are
Sample complete. Ready to continue?